Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're diving headfirst into the staggering story of Bernie Madoff and what is, without a doubt, the most devastating financial illusion in human history. For decades, the absolute smartest money in the world thought they had somehow found a glitch in the matrix, a guaranteed, risk-free return that never, ever went down, totally regardless of what the broader market was doing. Well, we're going to unpack exactly how one single guy managed to pull off a heist so unbelievably massive it fundamentally shook our entire understanding of modern finance. The sheer audacity of this deception is literally something you have to hear to believe. Let's get into it.
So I want you to picture the scene. It's December 2008. The global economy is just melting down. Lehman Brothers is a crater. General Motors is teetering right on the brink of collapse. Pretty much every 401k in America is absolute toast, and panic is basically the only currency left on Wall Street. Yet right in the middle of all that historic global economic chaos, an even more terrifying black hole emerges. We're talking about an impossible missing sum of $64 billion. Just try to wrap your head around that number for a second. 64 billion. It's a number so unfathomably huge it almost loses its meaning, right? It literally exceeds the GDP of many countries. And suddenly, it was all just gone.
And while the rest of the world was completely glued to the news about the housing market collapse, up in this luxurious New York penthouse, the single most trusted, revered man on Wall Street sits his two sons down. He looks at them, and he delivers this absolute bombshell confession. He says, $64 billion. It's all one big lie. It was a secret he'd kept so close to the chest, executed with such chilling precision that it instantly made the broader 2008 financial crisis look like a minor fender bender. The ultimate illusion had shattered.
Okay, let's look at the first part of our story here, the facade, the deacon of Wall Street.
Because to understand the crime, you really have to understand the man. When we think of a financial predator, we usually picture these frantic, chaotic types, right? The ruthless Wolf of Wall Street character screaming into telephones, breaking every rule in the book. But Bernie was entirely different. He was calm, respectable. He wasn't some neighborhood hustler. This guy was the former chairman of NASDAQ, a legit tech innovator who literally helped invent electronic trading back in the 70s. He carried himself with this pious, almost religious devotion to the market. He'd spend his weekends just sipping iced tea at exclusive country clubs, radiating total stability. People didn't just invest with him, they sought his blessing. He was like a walking, talking software plugin for absolute honesty.
And get this, his most dangerous weapon wasn't some slick sales pitch or a flashy presentation, it was rejection. He would literally sit across the table from billionaires, titans of industry, European royalty, and just tell them, I'm sorry, I'm not taking new investors right now. It's pure psychological warfare. By faking this total exclusivity, he made his targets literally beg to hand over their fortunes. I mean, people inherently want what they're told they can't have, right? Bernie weaponized that deeply ingrained human instinct flawlessly. He turned some of the sharpest minds in global finance into desperate applicants, just pleading to be part of his inner circle.
Let's move on to our next section, the mechanics, the magic piggy bank.
So how exactly does someone manage to steal $64 billion without anyone noticing for 20 whole years? Well, he used what we call the magic box theory, or more formally, a Ponzi scheme. The concept is brutally simple. It's a system that pays early investors entirely with the money contributed by later investors. It generates absolutely zero actual profit, none. There's no trading, no actual investing happening. Bernie was essentially selling this beautiful guaranteed future while actually operating an absolute nightmare behind the scenes. He relied entirely on a constant, never-ending stream of fresh cash to keep the lights on, knowing full well that the underlying math meant it was 100% destined to implode eventually.
Let's break this down into an explain like I'm five version of how this engine actually ran. Step 1. You give Bernie $100. You put your money into his magic piggy bank. Step 2. A month later, he mails you a beautifully printed statement saying your account is now worth $110. You feel brilliant, right? You feel totally secure. The psychological validation is so strong that you immediately run and tell all your friends and family they need to invest too. But then comes step 3. When you decide you actually want to cash out some of that money, where does it come from? It doesn't come from market gains. Bernie just hands you the brand new $100 deposit that your neighbor dropped off yesterday.
And here is the truly terrifying reality. There was no magic box. He wasn't executing complex options trades or masterminding European energy arbitrage or whatever else he claimed. Billions of dollars in client funds simply sat untouched in a completely regular, everyday checking account at Chase Manhattan Bank. Those monthly statements arriving in the mail? Totally fabricated. He literally had his staff working on archaic dot matrix printers up on the 17th floor, hammering out fake trades to match historical stock prices long after the trading day was already over. It's the financial equivalent of counting chickens that haven't hatched on a farm that literally doesn't even exist. It was nothing but layers of empty hype.
But, you can only defy gravity for so long. Here's Section 3, the collapse. The Jenga tower falls.
The entire illusion unraveled rapidly, and it was driven by forces even Bernie couldn't control. For decades, those fake statements consistently showed returns going up, and the scheme managed to survive early market crashes and the dot-com bubble. But then, 2007 hits, the global housing market implodes. That was the exact moment the absolute bottom block was yanked from the Jenga tower. Suddenly, the broader economy is in unmitigated panic. Moving into late 2008, this widespread terror triggers a massive bank run. Institutional and individual investors alike desperately needed cash to cover their staggering losses elsewhere, so they all turned to the one investment they thought was totally safe. And finally, on December 11, 2008, the music stopped.
Frantic demands started pouring in from all over the globe, and these calls were completely desperate. Bernie, I need $7 billion for my charity. Bernie, I need $100 million for my retirement. But that magic piggy bank? It was completely, hollowly empty. The new money had stopped coming in because of the global recession, which meant the old money simply couldn't be paid out. Besides, Bernie had already siphoned off vast sums over the years to fund this luxurious, untouchable lifestyle. We're talking yachts, penthouses, private jets. The illusion of infinite liquidity was completely shattered in a matter of days.
Which brings us to our final section, the fallout, the ultimate cost of trust. When the lights finally came on, everyone realized the building was entirely hollow. This instantly shifted from being some sterile Wall Street math problem to Main Street being an absolute terrifying freefall. The human aftermath here was just unimaginable. It went way beyond just missing digits in a bank ledger. Philanthropic organizations, real-world charities that funded hospitals and schools completely wiped out overnight, forced to shut their doors. Elderly retirees who thought their golden years were totally locked in, they lost every single penny they had worked their entire lives for. Many were literally standing in line for food banks. And the tragedy struck intimately close to home, too. The unbearable weight and public shame of his father's decades-long deception ultimately drove Bernie's own son to take his life. The collateral damage literally spared no one.
Bernie Madoff didn't just break the law. He broke the fundamental trust that our entire financial system actually relies upon to function. History shows us time and time again, from the early market manipulators all the way up to modern corporate titans, that the smartest guys in the room usually manage to slip quietly out the back door while everyday people are left holding the empty bag. Which leaves us with a pretty vital question to think about regarding your own financial security and the systems we all rely on. If trust is a weakness, who is holding your bag? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep asking those hard questions, and I'll see you next time.